Hi, everyone. Welcome to Questions and Answers. This is going to be our last school year edition of Questions and Answers, where you can submit your questions on Google Classroom. In the future, if you would like to submit questions for our weekly Questions and Answers videos, my suggestion is to subscribe and comment down below in our YouTube channel, or go over to the Facebook group, Mr. H on YouTube, and that's where you can have as many questions as your heart's desire, all right? So let's go with some sixth grade questions, and they have some questions about some different types of countries. And let's see, what countries have been the most powerful in Africa? Historically, Egypt has always been an extremely powerful country, both in the ancient world and in modern day. Some highlights of it also, the Egyptians were basically the breadbasket of the Roman Empire, which is why Octavian, eventually Caesar Augustus, tried to conquer it against Cleopatra and Mark Antony in history. Also, the Mamelukes were a very powerful nation in the Middle East. Other countries that are really powerful in Africa in modern day would be, like, example, like Nigeria. Nigeria has always been an extremely important and powerful nation in Western Africa. Okay? Here's a question. Which country has fought the most wars in their history? I actually did a little research on this, and the country that has the most official wars is England, so Great Britain. That comes down to, number one, they've been around for the longest, and number two, they've been also been a colonizer, so they've had a lot of different colonies that have attacked and had to fight off different wars against people in their colonies. The second country that had the most wars, just a few under, surprisingly enough, was Poland, which is kind of understandable. Poland in Eastern Europe has always been basically a hot spot when it came to warfare. Okay. Next question is, which country has not fought a lot of wars in their history? And in my research, there's one obvious answer, and then there's one not so obvious answer. The one obvious answer is Switzerland. Switzerland has had neutrality written into their constitution since they've been a nation. Back when they were just like little city-states, they used to fight each other. But Switzerland as a nation has always been a neutral nation. Another nation that is still around today is known as San Marino. And if you don't know where San Marino is, go and look at a map of Italy. It's in northern Italy. It is politically neutral, and it has been ever since its founding. Okay. So looking up my questions. Some 7th grade questions. And here we are. So, one of the 7th graders asked, in our history books, it talks about how the South's rail shortage would hurt them later. How did this hurt them, and why wouldn't the South have just built other railroads? And this talks a little bit about another question at the end that I'll talk about in just a second. Transportation was really important. However, the North was the one who really needed the transportation. The South, for the most part, used shipping for their cotton. And really, the reason that rail shortages would hurt the South when they're talking about the Civil War was that they did not have the rail system to transport troops around the South quickly. Remember, there are no cars. The fastest modes of transportation are horse, ship, or railroad. And when you need to get inland, railroad is the fastest transportation at this time. The North had a lot of transportation in terms of railroads that they could get their soldiers down into the South to fight. The South, not so much. Why didn't they build those railroads? Well, it's expensive to build railroads. It's expensive to build infrastructure, which is what railroads are. And so those funds went not to the infrastructure of the South, but instead that funding went to continuously building up the agricultural sector. It'd be like in Springfield today, instead of spending money on hospitals and roads, the city decided to spend all of its money on the farms that are around the area. Would we have better farms? Absolutely. Would our roads be really bad and our hospitals not have as much supplies? Probably. Okay? So that was the decision that the Southerners made. Another question, it says, what do they mean when they say slavery was the heart of the Southern economy? What that means is that slavery was the focus of the economy, that all economic questions were resolved and revolved around slavery. So, for example, who are going to be the primary laborers of the cash crops, the slaves? What sorts of things are we going to make? Well, we're going to make the things that the slaves can make. So, are we going to have to pay these people? No, they're slaves. Those are economic questions that every country asks itself. And in the South, they decided to instead focus their whole economic system on slavery. And our final question is, why was industry practiced in the North more than the South? And this is a good way of phrasing this question, because industry was practiced in the South. There were some industrial centers, most notably places like Atlanta, were a railroad hub. But basically, the North did not have the agricultural tools to be the primary farming system for the United States, so they didn't. And that's really, like, when you look at a piece of land and you ask, well, why are those people fishers? Well, they live on water, right? And so living on water means that it's easier for you to fish as opposed to someone who lives in the middle of a desert, right? And so those types of questions influence how you settle these sorts of things. So the South was, pretty much required to be farming because they had way better land for agriculture, whereas the North, which didn't have the best agricultural land, but they did have a lot of raw materials that were useful for factories. So that's why industry and factories became part of the Northern economy. Great questions today, guys. I've also gotten some great ideas for videos from you. You've commented in Google Classroom, and now I'm going to bring the question again. Go ahead. If you want to keep adding questions on this video, and if you have more topics that we want to make videos on, go ahead and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to Mr. H on YouTube, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!